My name is Robin Flaig, and I'm the UK Biobank Data Linkage Program Manager. And I'm going to be discussing how do you follow up 500,000 people across England, Scotland, and Wales, and hopefully keep you awake in the after lunch slot. So, let's see if I've got this right. Okay. No. This one. Is this the key? Oh, it's that one. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So, our aim is to identify a wide range of incident diseases occurring in our biobank participants after recruitment. There are generally considered to be two methods to follow up biobank participants in cohort studies generally, and they are being described from the participant point of view. So the first is active methods. This is traditionally face-to-face interviews, sometimes postal or web questionnaires, and this data can often be processed quite quickly and can be quite costly and time-consuming, and also make it difficult to get complete follow-up because you often are only engaging in with those people who are most capable of being followed up. The other is determined passive, and I have to say I find this term a misnomer, speaking as the person who has to obtain the data linkages. It is not a passive method at all from UK Biobank's perspective. So, why is passive follow-up even possible? Well, first of all, it's possible because all of our participants were registered with an NHS GP at the time of recruitment, which means that we can follow them up through linkage to NHS records. And that means that we don't have to interact with our participants. We can just get on with the work. This should be effective and cost-efficient, and it often is. And I have to say, having done this job since 2012, it is getting better. It is getting easier. And the data suppliers, NHS Digital, ISD in Scotland, the University of Swansea in Wales, are all really, really helpful to me and have made this easier and easier. We also obtain broad consent at recruitment, and that means that we can link, and we do have an advantage over some other projects that try and obtain this linked data. However, there are some caveats about this passive method of follow-up through linkage, and one is that we can only access conditions that are diagnosed in a healthcare setting, and the data has to be good. Those are the two main issues. So we do both kinds of follow-up. We do web questionnaires. At the time of recruitment, we obtained email addresses for about 350,000 of our participants. And since 2011, we've been doing online questionnaires contacting these participants. And over the years, we've gotten better at this, and we get higher and higher response rates. And I would say this slide is slightly misleading because it has a year of these assessments, but in fact, for all of the ones that have happened, we actually leave these surveys, these questionnaires open with the exception of occupational health and the 24 diet recall. So if a participant wants to see what UK Biobank's been doing and they kind of take a wander around the website, they can fill out these questionnaires at any time. Currently, we're doing the dietary preference questionnaires and are actively contacting participants to invite them to fill this out. And we have some follow-up questionnaires that are going to be occurring over the next few years, including a cognitive function repeat and a mental health repeat, but also looking at new things like sleep and autistic traits. And what you'll notice about all of these topics is these are areas that it's very difficult to get information on via health linkages, which is why the active follow-up is also very important. And this whole program of work is run by Naomi Allen and Joe Holliday out of University of Oxford team. So this slide should be a little familiar. Rory showed it this morning. So we receive regularly updated information from NHS datasets in England, Scotland, and Wales. And you can see that for the data that we release is around deaths, cancers, and admissions to hospital. And these provide many incident cases of disease in lots of different areas. As Rory said, it also provides prevalent cases of disease because these data sets go back quite a long way. One of the kinds of data we receive, Primary care data is obviously could add hugely to UK Biobank, but I'm not going to discuss it because that is the subject of the next talk. So looking at cancer, which in the UK, because of the cancer registries, the data is really robust and the cases are really well defined. The data is good. We have all this data available, and you can see at recruitment what the prevalent rate of these cancers is and the incidence, and what we predict will be the incidence by 2022. But as good as the cancer data is, there are potential linkages that could make it even better. And these are areas that we're looking to link to, but it's more challenging because essentially these are regional data sets. And so we're working with different teams, particularly in Leeds and Newcastle, to try and link to histopathology reports and digitized histopathology slides and maybe tumor specimens. So what data is available via Showcase? And here I want to kind of caveat because it's very challenging. These data sets, lots of researchers use them, but almost no researchers link them together across the 3 nations. And they are different in each country. And so one of the challenges Biobank had when we received all this data to begin with was, how do we harmonize these data sets? So right now we have death, cancer, and hospital admission data available to researchers, and we do receive annual updates of all of these data sets. And we hope to provide annual updates to Showcase of these data sets as well. But there are many other data sets in the UK that many of you are familiar with, and some that are more unusual. And we are currently in the process of trying to determine which of these data sets makes sense for us to process and release, because it is no small thing to process these data sets. So for example, we've had the outpatient data for quite some time, but because it only holds the kind of appointment that was held and the date of the appointment and very few clinical codes, we haven't had the energy, and we don't know if it's worth processing. There's accident and emergency data that we have almost across the 3 nations, and there are many other registries and audits and emerging data sets across the country. And these data sets, there are many more that I could list, but trying to keep it to one slide, that are emerging and that people are working to create, such as NHS laboratory data. And UK Biobank is working with all the groups who are trying to release these new data sets, create these new data sets. And as they become available, as we assess them and see if they add breadth of data or depth of data, we can then plan to release them. So if you would like to help or make suggestions about data linkage, please contact me. And if you have questions or ideas for web questionnaires, please contact Joe Holliday. Thank you.